Okay, welcome to Chapter 10, Organizing a Corporation. We're going to talk about stocks, basically, in this first chapter with dealing with corporations. It's very simple to create a corporation. You have to fill out an application, and then you'll have some articles of incorporation. You usually file this with the Secretary of State. So like in Texas, there's a Secretary of State office, and they're the ones that handle that and issue a charter recognizing the corporation. And then, of course, once you have a corporation, you have shares of stock. You have shares of that shared ownership of that corporation. And so then you have the shares of stock, and then therefore you have stockholders or shareholders. Gives you an example of a stock certificate, although really and truly those are usually electronic. And then we're going to look at two kinds of stock, and variations of those two: common and preferred. Okay, so common stock is stock that can be bought, and when you have common stock, you have voting power within the corporation. Then there's preferred stock, and preferred stock does not have voting power, but it does have dividends. And so if there's both stocks, common and preferred, then the company's going to issue dividends. The preferred stock gets paid the dividends first, and then common stock will get issued dividends. And there's usually a percentage that goes along with the preferred stock, which tells you how much dividend you're going to get. And then if there's some years that the company doesn't pay dividends, they kind of accrue those dividends. And so then later on, maybe the next year, they'll pay both years' worth of dividends. Let's see what else. Accumulates votes. So, of course, with preferred stock, there's no votes. There's no power in the company. So, like a smaller company, like a family company, they could incorporate. The family can hold all of the common stock and have control of the company, but then they can go out and also issue preferred stock so that they can raise capital, and it's investment for those shareholders, but they don't have say in how the company's run, in a sense. So that's kind of a good setup for like a family business or something like that. Okay. All right, then we're going to have different values of stock. The par value is the assigned value to a stock. So it's par value of $1. So every stock is worth $1. That doesn't mean it's going to sell for $1. It could sell for more, it could sell for less. And that's part of the transactions that we're going to be working with. There's a no par value. That means we're just going to value it at whatever it's being purchased at that moment in time. And then stated value stock is a non-par value stock with a stated value, which we're going to treat in our transactions just like a par value stock. Okay. So looking at our working together, we've actually just got 3 scenarios. We're going to use the same information, but we're going to journalize it 3 different ways, with a dollar par value, a no par value, and a stated value of $1. Okay, so if you look on your working together, page 302, it says we're on page 6 of a cash receipts journal. We've already got that marked for us. And the source document is abbreviated with an R. The transaction, June 5th, Harold Davis purchased 6,000 shares of Glasstown Incorporated common stock for $8 per share. Receipt 242. And you know what? We're going to actually see people's names And if this was a public stock, and it had an initial public offering, an IPO, then we probably wouldn't see individuals purchasing stock. We wouldn't see that transaction, right? Because it's going to be publicly traded. This is a little bit more private, where we go out and we're talking with somebody and we're like, hey, we want to invest in your company. Okay, let's do that, right? And so that's why we're going to actually see names. So it's a little bit of not the big stock market, New York Stock Exchange that you imagine when you think of stock and shareholders and things like that. This is a little bit more small and private. Okay, so it says to journalize transactions using each of the following assumptions, which are these 3 assumptions. Okay, so we have 6,000 shares at $8 per share. Okay, so 6,000 shares, common stock, at $8 per share. Okay, and it tells us, it tells us here that the par value is $1. Okay, so we are actually buying 6,000 times $8 a share is $48,000. Okay, that's how much Harold is paying for his stock. But it's only $1 par value. Okay, so 6,000 times $1 par value is 6,000. All right, so the par value is 6,000. He's paying 48,000. We are going to recognize the par value in our common stock or our capital stock account. Okay, and then everything else above is going to be an account called paid in capital in excess of par value. And that's a really long name. I'm going to come back to it and show you here in the book. And actually they keep using 2 lines. Okay, so don't be confused by this random blank line here, because that's just because this whole thing is one account. Our column's not wide enough. All right, so here you can see capital stock, that's the par value. So that's where our 6,000 will go. And then we'll have the paid in capital in excess of, 42,000. And then we're actually receiving $48,000 in cash. Okay, but this is the capital that we use for any amount over the par value. PIC. We need an abbreviation for that. PSEP, paid in capital excess of par. And we need to make sure we do mark it as common or preferred. Those are going to be separate accounts. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this check transaction on June 5th. All right, and so again, the par value is going to be recorded in capital stock, common, and it was receipt 242. Okay, and that's again the par value. This is stockholders' equity, so it's owner's equity. So its increasing side is a credit. Okay, and then we know we received $48,000 in cash, and so the difference between those is going to be the paid in excess. So let's do paid in capital excess of par common PSEP. I'm making that up. Don't know if that's commonly used at all, but we'll use it for our class. Okay, and then this is the 42,000. All right. Okay, so regardless of the dollar amount received, the credit to capital stock is always the par value or stated value. Okay. All right, so then assumption B, a no par value common stock. So we're just going to record it the straight 48,000. So again, on June 5th, capital stock, common, receipt 242. Okay, this is a no par value. So it'll be the straight 48,000 and a 48,000 cash debit. Okay. Dollar par, no par. This was stated value. And stated value, we're going to act, it's going to look just like par value. Okay. So June 5th. Capital stock common. Receipt 242. The 6,000, because it's a dollar stated value. Now that could be different. That could be $2 stated value if it was a no par stock. Okay. Again, the 48,000. And you use the same thing. The paid in capital in excess of stated value. Paid in capital excess of stated value, common. Okay, that's good. And that's the 42,000. Okay, pretty simple there. Then the next section 10.2 talks about preferred stock. Preferred stock, again, a stock issued in the same manners. It just doesn't have the voting power to go along with it. Okay. So let's go and let's make a note right here that this is a no par value common stock with a stated value. Okay, and we do it just like par value. I tried to turn the lamp on, that's even worse. Okay. All right. So in 10.2, nothing too different, just information-wise. So we'll just go straight into the transactions for 10.2. Okay, and we've got some room up here, so I'm gonna Give me just a second. Okay, my screen looks a little blue. I turned one light off in the room to see if that helps. I don't know why it looks blue. Okay. So just some reminders up here. Common stock, you can vote. Preferred stock, no vote. They're the first. They have first chance at the dividends. They're the first to receive dividends. And those dividends will accumulate. So if a company decides not to issue dividends 1 year, then they can retroactively pay those dividends in a future year. Okay. So when you think about it, no vote means no power in decision making. And so a good example would be something like a very small company or a family company, where they want to be incorporated because they don't want that personal liability. It kind of gives them a buffer, but they're still in control of their company. They're still making decisions for their company. Okay? And then when we are looking at preferred stock, we're going to see a percent. So it'll say 200 shares of 6% $50 par value preferred stock. Okay, so that percent is a dividend rate. So whatever, like $50 par value, 6% stock. So 6% of $50 is what the expected dividend is for each share, for that share each year. So 6% per year, which is a pretty good return rate. Okay, so this dividend rate is a percent of the issue price. Okay, and it's 6% per year. Okay, so just some more information. Oh my gosh, that is really blue. I hope you can see this okay. All right. Okay, so our transactions, notice here we have a cash receipts journal and we have a general journal, and we'll get to the general in just a little bit. But the cash receipts, of course, we're selling stock, and so we're going to receive the cash for that. So it tells us on March 17th, and then again we're on 10-2, page 309, we received cash from Latoya Davis for 200 shares of 6% $50 par value preferred stock at par value. Okay, so 200 shares times 50 is $10,000. So we didn't pay anything over the par value price. Okay, so on March 17, we sold some capital stock preferred, and it was receipt 443. Okay, and this is 200 times 50 equals 10,000, and this was at par. Okay, so 10,000 for our credit and 10,000 for our cash debit. And then on May 2nd, we received cash from Richard Estes for 100 shares of 6% $50 par value preferred stock at $53 a share. So this one we are paying $53 for a $50 par. So we're going to have that paid in excess. And it keeps telling you the 6%, okay, but we're not doing anything with that right now. That's just telling us what the dividend rate is because it is preferred stock. Okay, but that doesn't mean anything to our math. All right, so on May 2nd, capital stock preferred. Okay, so remember the capital stock account, and this is receipt 589, is only going to record the par value. Okay, so for this one, we are buying 100 shares. The par value is $50. Okay, so that's $5,000. And 100 shares at $53 is $5,300. Okay, so we're going to get $5,300. Our par value is $5,000, so $300 is going to be the paid in excess. So $5,000 is going to be for our capital stock account. We're going to receive $5,300. And we're going to have the paid in capital in excess of par preferred for the 300. Okay, so our 2 credits equal our 1 debit. All right, and then on July 12th, this one is a little bit different. So on July 12th, we received office equipment for shares. We're trading office equipment for shares. So another company, a sister company, and a competitor or somebody is going out of business, and you want their equipment. And we're like, okay, we'll take your equipment, but we don't really want to give them a bunch of cash, okay? Or maybe we don't have the cash to give them, but we can give them some shares. So we're basically trading equipment for shares in the company. So since there's no cash involved, that's where the general journal is coming in. Okay, so the office equipment had an agreed upon value of $7,300, and they're getting 130 shares of $50 par. Okay, so 130 shares at $50 par is $6,500. Okay, so that's the value of the stock. They're giving us office equipment worth $7,300. So on July 12th, okay, the asset we're receiving is office equipment. Okay, and it tells us this is memo 133. And the value of the office equipment is $7,300. Okay, so there's our debit. That's our asset. Just like up here, cash was our asset. That's our debit. Okay, so here's our office equipment. And then the capital stock preferred. Is that what they decided on? Preferred? Yes. Okay, and that's our par value at $6,500. And then there's a difference there. So paid in capital in excess of par value. Paid in capital in excess of par value preferred. We'd actually have room to write all that in this line. So the difference between those, $800. Okay, so our 2 credits equal our 1 debit. So 7,300 minus 6,500 to get that number right there. Okay. Okay. And that's pretty much it for all of chapter 10. It's just understanding those 2 stocks and how to record when we sell those stocks. Okay, and then I think in the next chapter we're going to get into actually paying the dividends and issuing the dividends for our stockholders.